Osmophobia. Chapter 9. Into the Light. The late afternoon sun filtered through Jade's apartment window, casting warm gold light across the carpet. She sat cross-legged on her couch, with her phone in both paws, staring at the screen like it might suddenly make the decision for her. Her tail curled nervously around her legs. "Okay," she muttered to herself. "Just do it. This will be easy. He's cool." She tapped Cedric's contact and pressed the phone-shaped icon. The phone rang once, twice. "Hello, Princess." Jade smiled instantly. Cedric's voice had that soft warmth that she was beginning to recognize, the one that made everything feel calmer. "Hi," she said, trying to sound casual and slightly failing. "Is now a good time?" "Of course. What's up? All good?" Jade took a breath. "Here we go," she breathed. "Would you maybe like to go out tonight?" A pause. Not awkward, just surprised. "Oh," Cedric perked up. "Totally. Where were you thinking?" Jade shifted on the couch. "Do you know that art gallery in the Ruby District?" she asked. "I've walked past it here and there, but I've never actually gone inside. And well, I was thinking you're an art guy, and if we go close to closing, no one would be around, and we could have the whole place to ourselves, and you know." "Yes," Cedric cut in. "Just yes. I would love to be your date." Jade's face flushed a pink hue. "Perfect. I'll meet you there?" No, he replied. "You are a princess, and a princess gets a ride. I'll pick you up if you like. Glad to do it." "Oh, sure. Only if you're okay with that. Sure." "Wonderful. Text me your details, and I'll see you around, say, 7 o'clock. "Deal," she whispered. They ended the call, and Jade flopped onto the floor, tail dancing in the air above her. She just asked a cute guy on a date, and he said yes. That was new. Wonderfully new. The day passed beautifully as Jade worked from her home office. Every once in a while, she would glance out her window and take note that the sun was moving lower towards the west. Details of future conversations and topics were haunting her mind, and she loved it. Jade checked her phone. 6 o'clock stared back at her. Jade pushed back from her office table and spun in her office chair. She took a deep breath while looking at the ceiling. "Let's do this," she breathed. She dashed across her apartment and dived into a hot shower. Even while getting clean, she was counting the minutes. She exited the shower, toweled off, and went to the bedroom. What to wear? She thought with horror. She really only had one art gallery-style dress. She bought it while window shopping about a year ago. It was a deep emerald green dress with a generous neckline and barely any back. Modest, of course, but still eye-catching. She took a sharp breath, retrieved the dress from her closet, and slipped into its flowing silk material with ease. She held her breath as she looked in her mirror. Her reflection stared back in surprised approval. She was, well, beautiful. She looked up and down at herself as she did a slight spin. "Yeah," she whispered. "Yeah, he'll like this, I think." She checked her phone. 6:40. Any minute now. She entered her living room and found herself pacing. "This'll be fine," she reassured herself. "The dress may be sexy, but sexy is fine. Am I going too fast? Pushy, maybe? Too forward? Jade heard a knock at her door, and her entire tail fluffed. She eyed the door like it was a horror monster. "'Kay," she let out. "Now or never." She took a breath and opened the door. Standing in the doorway was a handsome Cedric in a black dining jacket, black wash jeans, and a slick white dress shirt under his jacket. Cedric opened his mouth to say hello, but froze at the view of Jade. He finally spoke. "Hello, Jade. You look incredible." That was all it took. Jade, indeed, felt incredible. "Thank you," she said softly, And you look wonderfully handsome. The dining jacket really works. Cedric straightened slightly. Well, hey, it's not every day a lovely lady invites me to go to a gallery. Had to dress the part. Same, she said. I know this isn't my usual look, but... No, Cedric said. It matches your eyes. You look sensational. He offered his arm and did a slight bow of his head. Jade swept up to his side and happily took his arm. They made their way down to the street. They both stepped out to a beautiful evening. Cedric's car was awaiting them. It was a sleek black sedan with sharp headlights and almost looked like one solid piece of obsidian flowing back. Jade looked up at him with an eyebrow raised. He returned the glance and dashed over to the passenger door, opening it for her with precision. A nice ride and a gentleman. Jade stepped forward. Truly, you are enchanting, Cedric. He smiled. You are the princess. A princess needs a chariot. She smiled and entered the vehicle, greeted by the familiar smell of sandalwood and a single rose on the dash in front of her. Cedric made his way around and entered the driver's side. He scooped up the rose in his paw. For you, he offered. Jade locked eyes with him, and a slight laugh escaped her lips. You are ever the charmer. Cedric returned the laugh. What? I couldn't help myself. Would you have it any other way? Jade looked across to him. No, she whispered. Cedric smiled and offered his phone. You choose the soundtrack. Jade's eyes went wide. Yes, she exclaimed. For the entire 15-minute drive, Jade was talking endlessly of her favorite musical artists, genres, and playlists. After a while, Jade was secretly creating a new playlist on Cedric's Spotroar account. When she noticed Cedric was pulling into a parking lot, she glanced out the window. A large imperial marble building was on the other side of the glass. She had always wanted to go into the art gallery, but she never felt safe or welcome. Something about Cedric made her feel more daring, made her feel more herself. They exited the vehicle, and Jade wrapped herself around Cedric's arm once more. Ready? He whispered. So ready, she echoed. The streets were quiet for the most part, or at least as quiet as the Ruby District ever gets. The hustle of locals was still evident, just lesser so this late in the evening. The two of them were at the foot of the grand gallery. Jade glanced up and read the bronze and gold letters above them. Diamond City's Gallery of the Fine Arts. This was going to be cool. As they entered the main hall of the grand building, a fancy-dressed panther greeted them with wide eyes. He slowly stepped forward. Monsieur, he nodded, and then looked to Jade with horror. Madame? Jade pretended as usual not to notice. We are closing in about an hour. We would ask that you would make your visit brief. But of course, Cedric raised a brow. Will be of no bother. Thank you. Cedric led Jade into the grand hall of the gallery with confidence, keeping a secure grip on her paw. The golden lights of the gallery bathed across stunning works of watercolor pieces and classic sculptures. Jade, despite their rude greeting, was truly in wonder of this place. Over the next moments of time, Cedric pointed out each exceptionally beautiful piece of art and told Jade every story and detail of each. A rabbit dancing in a field of color, an acrylic piece of a leopard swimming in moonlight, a watercolor piece of a tiger's back with 4 different segments of patterns in their fur. About 40 minutes had passed. Jade didn't care. They were having too much fun. They turned the corner into the central exhibit, and Cedric's eyes lit up. Look at that one, he whispered in Jade's ear. She glanced to where he was pointing as they approached it. When she saw it, it was as if all the noise in the world went silent. It was a huge painting of a naked lioness confidently entering a busy street full of hundreds of staring strangers. Jade stared in wonder. The art was clearly a masterpiece, and every brushstroke was elegantly crafted. This one is by Montalban, one of my favorite artists. Jade could see why. The architecture in the piece looked similar to Cedric's own pieces. Cedric took a breath. It's called Into the Light. This was one of his most renowned pieces. Jade found herself lost in the anatomy of the lioness. It was perfect, almost like a frozen piece of time. It's a story of being seen, just the way one is. Jade looked to Cedric, who had his eyes locked on the art in admiration. Even with all the prejudice, judgment, cruel remarks, and sharp dismissals, she is still unapologetically herself. Cedric looked to Jade. That is true beauty. That is the beauty I've seen in you since the day we met. Jade had her eyes locked to Cedric's. She opened her mouth to speak, but was cut off. A voice went out over the speaker system. The gallery will be closing in 10 minutes. Please make your way to the front exit. Cedric and Jade were knocked out of their trance. They glanced at each other once more. Let's be off then, Cedric smiled. Jade looked at the painting once more, to Cedric, and nodded in approval to make their exit. As they exited the building, Jade noticed that the sun was now fully gone and the night had yawned to life. The streets of the Ruby District were lit up with golden spotlights. As they walked the street back to Cedric's car, Jade let something slip from her lips. Are we, dating? She asked flirtatiously. Cedric stopped under a streetlight and looked to Jade. If you would like to be. No. Do you want to? Jade asked point blank. Cedric's eyes narrowed and his jaw tightened, as if he'd been prepared for this for quite a while. Yes, he said clearly. Jade, I have never met someone like you. Someone with your light, your presence, or your unspoken beauty. I would love to date you. Jade's tail swayed from side to side as she kept her eyes locked on Cedric. She finally stepped forward and softly kissed Cedric's cheek. She recoiled and turned to look away from him. She opened her mouth. My mother died when I was little. I try to be strong. I try to be myself. No one ever saw me. A breeze breathed past them. Cedric, you see me. I don't know how or why, but you see me. Just the way I am. Jade finally turned slightly to look at Cedric. Cedric opened his mouth. I see you, Jade. And now that I've seen you, I never want to look away. Jade kept eyes locked to Cedric. She walked over closer to him and took his arm once more to continue walking. Yes, she finally said, looking up at him with a crooked eyebrow. We are definitely dating. This has been Osmophobia. If you like this content, please follow for more. The story continues.